Great. Well, should we begin then?
I think we should go ahead and get started. Holly, you want to kick us off?
I would love to. So welcome back from break, everyone. I'd like to introduce Andrew Mancuso. Sorry, Andrew, already. Andrew has been the preservation officer at Case Western Reserve University since June 2017, where he preserves cultural heritage materials through preventative and physical conservation, imaging, and digital preservation. He is an active volunteer at the Morgan Art of Paper Making Conservatory in Cleveland, Ohio, and is engaged in a hand paper making apprenticeship at Tom Balboa Galleries. Today, Andrew will discuss the Adaptable Conservation Book Support that he constructed and adapted from Roger S. Williams' original design. Colleagues, please use the chat function to ask questions and provide feedback. Our colleague, Kim Hoffman, will act as the chat moderator. And over to you, Andrew. Thank you.
All right. I'm actually going to close the door to this room real quick. Sorry about that. So thank you, Holly, for that introduction. I'm down here. Hello. You're above my bed because I got kicked out of the library yesterday. We had to all leave. Somebody had a positive case, and I managed, thankfully, to wrangle all of this stuff before I left. So as Holly was saying, this was originally designed by Roger Williams at Northwestern, and he presented it at an Icon book and paper webinar early on in the pandemic. And I knew, once I got back to the lab that I really wanted to make a few of these. So I went about it, and, we found there were some, issues that came up as I was building it that we corresponded about, and I actually have a byline in the bottom of the wiki now. It's funny that I contributed something, but all of the supplies and the instructions are on the wiki page, and they've actually consolidated a bunch of the supplies from when I first made it, which is really nice. Pretty much everything is through McMaster, which is an Ohio company. There's a few things that aren't, but all readily available, all pretty cheap. I mean, each of these I think was less than $40 to make or something like that. And it's really quick and easy assembly. You do need a drill. That's probably the only big, kind of tool that you'll need to construct one of these. Otherwise, you have all of your materials here. So we have an American easel flat maple panel, and that's this side. This is the base, and this is actually two of them, and they're just stuck together with a heavy duty double stick tape, like Gorilla Tape, double stick, just kind of to stick them together. It's just so it has a heavier base. One of these I wouldn't recommend. It's not sufficient to, to hold an obtuse angle. It'll fall over without two of those. So I recommend two. The next thing on this list is two hardboard panels, and these are both 11 by 14. Sorry if I didn't say that. These two hardboard panels are also just double stick taped together, and they're much thinner. They comprise this action edge here, and on top of this here you just see Volara foam. You could use any kind of softer material. You could layer up blotters. I also use a blotter on top of this once it's all assembled, and you can switch that out so you don't get the foam super dirty all the time, because it's not as cheap as blotter paper. So yeah, I pretty much just mostly disassembled this, and we're just going to kind of walk through building it. One of the things that I contributed was initially these hinges were nylon hinges, and they really didn't grip that well. And if you moved the hinge, the lever lock past a certain point, you lost all friction. So that was one thing. These are like zinc plated metal ones now, and they work quite well. So yeah, the main thing that I said you're going to need is a drill. There's two holes here and here, and you line these up so that the hinge is, the middle part is just kind of in the middle there, that little bulbous part in the middle. And These are some short wood screws. I'll just start putting this here. And you want to make sure that you measure these out before you do your drilling. I don't think you can see it, but I mismeasured this one here, and there are 2 sets of holes there now. So be a little more careful than I was. This was the first one, and this was the one that got revamped a couple times with different components. So this is the one that I felt like I should take apart and show you all. These wood screws have a lip on them, so you don't need any kind of other kind of securing nut or anything like that, and they just go right into this wood. And I'll do the same thing on the other side here. You can all see this all right? I'm just kind of going blind.
Andrew, it's been fantastic.
All right, great. Do the wood screws on this one. Right. When I put this on initially, I kind of just put like an old pile of board or something under here to hold it up so it's level, This is these are some Tnuts. I think these are 3/4, no, 1/2 inch. Yeah, these are 1/2 inch hex bolts. On the list here, and that was one of the other things too, is I found some of these bolts were just a little shy of actually going through the whole thing, and this process was actually a bit frustrating, I must tell you, when I was first going through it, because I would order these things, and because of the pandemic, stuff would take forever, and then when I finally got it and tried it and it didn't work, I would be like, oh, come on, really? All right, but if you can see this here, this is the back of this. So now we have those Tnuts, and they just go right like this. Get them kind of snug on there at first. Then come back with your Allen. On this side, while you're holding that T-nut in the back, you kind of tighten it nice and tight. Nothing needs to be really ratcheted down on this thing. Hand tight is fine. Okay, so now we've got the base, and these lever locking hinges just do the best job at holding this thing up. So acute angles, obtuse angles. And actually what's really nice about this, I'll show you once it's all done, but you can use it this way for oversized materials that don't fit on the cradle. All right, so now we have the real genius part of this. So Roger actually adapted this from an objects conservation technique, and oh my God, I'm blanking on the name. It begins with a T though, but basically you use these kinds of sticks and they brace repairs on a frame, essentially. So that's the idea that we're going with. We have another hex nut here, a bit different. It doesn't have the conical shape on the top because it actually goes through these 2 hardboards. You put the Volara on last, obviously. I just took it off for these purposes here. Or I left it on because I wanted to not take it all the way off and still show you.
Hey, Andrew, can we ask a quick clarifying question from the chat?
Go ahead.
Kathleen is asking, one panel is thicker and it serves as the base, and then the thinner panel is the one that moves. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks.
Yep. All right. I'm just going to pull this down a bit because this is all right. Okay. Those just pulled right out. Sorry about that. This thing has seen some disassembles and reassembles, so I apologize. But now that we've got these bolts in here, what you do is take one of those Tnuts again, just thread it like a little bit onto the nut here. You're going to want to mark off, I think it's like a ½ an inch or an inch from the top here. And you're going to want to draw a line to where you drill these 2 holes to put the nut. Here's the other one. Yeah, I was looking at, because I reprinted all these directions and stuff, it has definitely improved since I made the first one. And all right, so this is a Tslot. This is used for a bunch of different things. Labs have them sometimes on the corners of benches, and you can like move things along the edge. And that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to slide this right onto these Tnuts. So it's on there. Whoop. And those will stay braced, and all you have to do, hopefully, is tighten these. That's good. Good. All right. That foam back. Okay. So we're basically there, except for the fact that I ripped the wood screws out of the base. Okay. So now we'll build the arms. They look like this. This is the original arm design here. It's an L bracket with the same bolts and Tnuts on the back. And this is just a bit of coroplast that feeds through that little arm with a rubber tip on the end, or might not be rubber, silicone tip, sorry, silicone. And these thinner ones aren't carbon, I don't think. They're fiberglass. Yeah, these are fiberglass rods. This is the 3D printed version, which I'll show you as well, but these have carbon rods. They're much thicker and much sturdier. You can use both in that setup though. That's why I actually like those much more, I've come to find out. But basically, all you're doing here is putting a couple holes through that coroplast, feeding the nuts through them, and tightening them down on the Tnuts. And you feed this through kind of close to where it's going to smush down onto the coroplast, and it gives you a little bit of friction, and you can adjust that friction. If you wanted it really tight and not to move, you could turn it a bit and really, cinch it in there, and then it's not going anywhere. But I like a little bit of movement, so we'll leave it like that. Then you have one of these, another Tnut setup. There's a lot of Tnuts in this project, with a washer and one of these little flange nut things. But basically, this goes into the top part of that Tslot. Your arm goes here, and this just screws on and tightens down. And then you can move this across, and what's happening is you're able to hold the book at basically any angle. This can come at a bunch of different directions and hold it in place, hold the pages up in place, or the cover. I use I used another one the other day. Unfortunately, you can't see it. That's the one that I made a really big one from an old cradle that was in my lab that was just the bones were good, but it was just covered in Velcro, and so I changed that up into one with all these 3D arms, 3D printed arms, and I put a hinge in there in one of these items I was repairing, and it was just amazing. Holding it up, holding the front board up here, laying down that hinge, it was just great. And I was like, oh my God, what did I do without this thing? Okay. So this is one I really like. This is the 3D printed setup that the Auckland Museum in New Zealand came up with. There are also the files. If you have access to a 3D printer, the files are available online. But it's the same idea. You have a similar Tnut that slides into the slotted arm here. But this allows it to basically have any angle, and you can adjust just a lot. You have a lot more finer adjustment with this setup, let's say, than just the right angle arms. So they can go many different ways, and I feel like it's just a little bit, I don't know. You have a lot of control with this, with the angle. And let's see if I can get a book on here, even though this thing came loose. Oh, shoot. Here's a book. My book. But even with this one, we can figure out how low it needs to be. Yeah. See, this is why these have some limitations. See, if you wanted to do a board, you really have to bring it far back, and I don't know. I found these to be a little bit of a pain, but these I like much better because we can bring this really close, bring that really gingerly onto the cover, and hold it up really nice. What I was saying before is that if you have an oversized item, you can simply flip these around and have your object here and do the same thing. If it spans more than the distance of this board, you can put it on this side and have it be held however it needs to be held. The beauty of angles, I think that's it, really. It's pretty simple. It's really ingenious. Check out Roger's website. He does a lot of fun work, a lot of interesting research. He's made actually a cradle to replicate that object conservator technique that looks like this, and it has a frame that sits around it where you use these to hold repairs in place. So very cool. And I'd be happy to take any questions.
Awesome. Thanks, Andrew. We do have questions coming in through the chat. So Holly is asking, are you primarily using the cradle for repairs, or are you also using it in photo documentation or imaging as well?
We have used it in PhotoDoc and also for digitization for a volume that was pretty big and needed to not be on, our vendor supplied book cradle, which is great, but it just didn't, didn't have what we needed when it came to this. Really, it was the whole angle of this thing that I decided it would be good to use it for that. But yeah, we do use it in photo. I made 3 of these. I made 2 this size and then the big one. So they're all
Nice.
over. They're all over now.
Jamie is asking, is there a file for 3D printing the arms?
Yeah, that's also on the wiki.
Excellent. Oh, yes, and Ashley had commented that in the chat as well. And Ashley has posted the link in the chat to the wiki page for this.
Oh,
Thanks,
great.
Ashley.
Perfect. Thank you.
And Kathleen has asked, could you share that website and the materials list? But I think, Kathleen, you can clarify if I'm getting this wrong, but were you asking about that wiki page? And the materials list is linked from the wiki page. Is that right, Andrew?
It is. Yep. The materials list, the instructions, the 3D printed files, and the instructions for those. They're all on the wiki page.
Perfect.
And then, yeah, Blotter can go over this and cover the rest of that.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is there any, oh, sorry. I was just going to ask, is there anything that surprised you about how you ended up using this or didn't end up using this?
Not yet. I haven't had, I just finished 3D printing these and getting them all together maybe a month ago. So I've only really had a couple opportunities to really use it in practice, but the times that I have, it's been really rewarding.
Awesome. Okay, and Kathleen has clarified, and sorry if this is what I was interrupting. She says, I think you mentioned a website of the person who developed the initial design of this.
Oh yeah, his website should be linked in the original invite for this meeting, I believe. I think Ashley linked it in there, or somebody linked it in there. But it's rogerswilliams.com maybe, or just look up Roger S. Williams Conservation and you'll find it.
Oh, Jamie says if you wanted to get fancy, you could sink the screw heads, but that would require more than just a drill.
Yeah, you could sink the whole hinge. You would want to, if you sank the screws, you'd have to sink the whole hinge. You'd have to do a router job or something, which would be cool too. You could have a whole plane and then just be able to put foam over the whole thing. That would be cool.
That would be cool.
Let's do
thanks,
it.
Holly. Holly posted the website in the chat.
Oh, perfect. Thanks.
Any other questions? Do you know of other folks who have riffed on this or tried it out for themselves and posted the results?
Yeah, there's a few people that have. The Auckland Museum in New Zealand, they did it first pretty much, and then the arms came pretty much immediately after they built it. It was funny. I was like, dang, they really upgraded that fast. It's just like, hey, your research is irrelevant immediately. But yeah, I know that there are a few, just from people I follow on Instagram. I know that Northwestern was reposting some people who had made them too. I can't remember exactly what institutions they were, but they're making them. They're out there.
Nice.
It's a cheap, really, really innovative kind of solution, I think.
Yeah.
And the bigger one that I made too, I left some of the Velcro on the back of the moving part, and I have a big giant piece of Mylar that goes around if I need it. If I need really a lot of support that these things can't handle, then it works that way too.
Cool. Ashley is asking, do you have any advice when following the instructions?
Not really. They're really well laid out. They were well laid out to begin with, and he's added even more. So it can only be better at this point. Because it went from, I think, it was really not even 2 full or 3 full pages, and now it's almost 6.
Oh, great.
So yeah, Fun stuff.
Kathleen would like to know, oh, I lost it. Could the hinges go on the outside rather than the inside, or would that not give the right angles?
I mean, if you found an outer mounting hinge, you probably could. It would have to be the right, if the hinge is this way, you have to have one that was out here, but also this way. So you have to just have it, there'd have to be mounting on the outside somehow. But try it out, please. This is what, this is the beauty of this profession too, is that people share things like this and they get riffed on. And, he presented on this in March, I think, and it's already gone through a bunch of instantiations and it's even better already.
Mm-hmm. Holly's pointing out that the preservation lab is having a couple made by their carpentry shop.
Nice, very nice. That's so fun. I'm my own carpentry shop.
Andrew, this was so wonderful. I'm so glad this worked out over WebEx, especially. I think this was one of those things that we'd love to do in person that we didn't think that we could do virtually, and you made it happen. This has been wonderful. Thank you for all your work putting this together.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. I was, when I got roused from the library, I was like, oh man, I better grab everything right now because they're not going to let me back. So glad it worked out too.
I have to say, it was so nice to see you do this in person, well, virtually in person, because I think seeing the images of it, it looks so elegant and beautiful. This really broke it down to make it feel accessible and actually doable. It's not quite as much work as I thought it might be. So.
No, the elegance and beauty comes from the Volara foam, I think, and the general pristine look of it. And this is a Japanese, I feel like, technique, so everything they do is elegant and fun, and I don't know. So I think that's where it comes from. But really, in the end, it's just some maple board, and some hardboard and a bench slot. So, and some hinges. That's it. It's great.
Well, everyone, we're wrapping up a few minutes early today, so I'm going to go ahead and unpin Andrew and Holly and Kim. Did you have anything else you wanted to share or wrap up yourselves before I close out the meeting?
Just thank you, Andrew. It was a great presentation. Really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure.
Great. Well, I'm going to go ahead and make my floating panel to see everybody's lovely faces. And thank you so much to everybody who was able to join today. I really, really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to join us. And our next quarterly meeting will be in March, as Holly said, and it sounds like it will be fun. So please mark your calendars and look for that quarterly meeting event on the Wild Apricot page. And if there's any last conversations you guys want to have, I'm going to leave this up for a few more minutes until noon.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, I'm going to jet. Take care, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Put another Zoom at noon.
Great, everybody.
Good to see you, Ed.
See you. Bye-bye.